Nikki Haley wants to know your name. She doesn't like to be criticized by pseudonyms, by anonymous people on the internet who might have a problem with her warmongering policies or anything else that she stands for. And she's got 2 clips where she's doubling down on this issue. The post-millennial clip this for us says, Nikki Haley says, every person on social media should be verified by their name. And that means for many of you out there, some people who may not want to use their name on the internet so that they can have a little bit more protection, a little bit more free speech out there without being threatened by being canceled or being mobbed to death at their business or so on and so forth. And of course, our founding fathers wrote the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers using pseudonyms, and it is part of free speech to be able to speak your mind without fear of being attacked by your federal government or by politicians who want everything logged and chronicled so that they can know who is offending their policy positions. This is Nikki Haley, and here she is articulating that you got to be verified if you want to participate in American conversations.
When I get into office, the first thing we have to do, social media accounts, social media companies, they have to show America their algorithms. Let us see why they're pushing what they're pushing. The second thing is every person on social media should be verified by their name. That's, first of all, it's a national security threat. When you do that, all of a sudden people have to stand by what they say, and it gets rid of the Russian bots, the Iranian bots, and the Chinese bots. And then you're going to get some civility when people know their name is next to what they say.
Accountability.
And they know their pastor and their family member is going to see it. It's going to help our kids, and it's going to help our country.
Give me a break. It's in the sake of national security, and it's going to help protect all of us, and people will modulate their speech when they're being monitored by their, government? That's what she wants to hear from us. So it's kind of like what China does, right? They want you to register. They want to make sure that your speech is chronicled. And if you offend the state, if you have some misinformation or something, they know exactly who to go after, and that this is going to be safer for everybody, and we'll have some civility on the internet finally, thanks to Nikki Haley. So now that was just an idea, and she threw it out there. I think it's more than an idea. I think it's a pretty strong policy position by the time she got to this point, but she doubled down on it. Okay, now she went on to basically an internet show. This is the Ruthless podcast, and these guys go by pseudonyms. Okay, Smug is somebody who is on this show, and she says the same thing again. She's demanding that all social media companies verify every single person, and look what she wants. I want it by name. They're all just sitting here laughing through this, which is kind of wild. It's like, are you serious? Here's Nikki.
They need to verify every single person on their outlet and I want it by name. Because when
what about Smug? Does he qualify?
I've provided them with my government.
If Smug is on your driver's license, then, and look, you can put Smug in parentheses, but I want everybody's name.
I want everybody's name in there, and I want Smug in parentheses. And this is like a real policy. So I don't think it's that funny, actually. It's why do you want everybody to be directly connected and monitored essentially by some entity, by the federal government, which we know has already been colluding with the social media companies and still is to this day, authorized by the Supreme Court to do that. And so Nikki Haley, not only does she want war, not only does she want, national security protections, but she also wants your free speech rights and your identity to be part of the public record for her own safety mindset. Now, Citizen Free Press here had a funny comment. They said, every person on social media should be verified by their name. She just told that other guy that Smug could be put into parentheses, and Citizen Free Press on the X platform said, this is curious, says her actual real name is Nimarata Nikki Randhawa Haley. And so maybe that should be her, full name on social media. Maybe her X account should be relabeled that. And she can put Nikki in parentheses at the very end. Now, this is what Wikipedia says. Early life and education. Haley was born Nimarata Nikki Randhawa in January 1972 in Bamberg, South Carolina, to immigrant Indian Sikh parents. Her father, Ajit Singh Randhawa, and her mother, Raj Kaur Randhawa, immigrated to the United States from Punjab, India. Well, why do people change their names and stuff? It's so that it's kind of more mainstream. Like literally, okay, Nikki is easier to remember for Americans than Nimarata Randhawa, right? Feels like, hey, it's just Nikki, it's very simple. Changing and modifying her name ever so slightly so that it's more palatable for more mainstream Americans, okay? And maybe that's a little bit disinformation-y, okay? Maybe she should not be allowed to do that. Maybe we should call her Nimarata, lest she spread war porn propaganda to all of us and get us involved in other global conflicts, right? And it's just a curious thing. She said maybe she can put Nikki in parentheses just like Smug did. So obviously Vivek, who's using his actual name, is responding to this, saying Nikki Haley is openly pushing for the government to use private tech companies to censor speech. This is a flagrant violation of the Constitution and literally literally straight out of the Democrats' playbook, as we'll see, because the governor of New York is demanding essentially the same thing: censorship of people who are not participating in the censorship of so-called misinformation. Now, any politician who thinks it's okay, she says, or they say, Vivek says, who thinks it's okay for the government to use the private sector as its censorship bureau shouldn't be allowed anywhere near the White House. And there's no doubt about that. And Nikki Haley is kind of pulling away in some of the polls. We've been seeing this. And so Vivek has been coming after her, pretty aggressively. And Ron DeSantis has been doing the same thing. Ron said the same. He said, you know who were anonymous writers back in the day? Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, James Madison, when they wrote the Federalist Papers. They were not national security threats, says Ron, nor are the many conservative Americans across the country who exercise their constitutional right to voice their opinion without fear of being harassed or canceled by the school they go to or the company that they work for or the government that they slave under. Haley's proposal to ban anonymous speech online, similar to what China did, is dangerous and unconstitutional. It will be dead on arrival in my administration. And so it's kind of nuts that Haley would even go down this path, but she did. Question was, is she doubling down on this? What is her campaign saying about it? She says, let us see why they're pushing what they're pushing, and that every person should be verified. Now, they were talking about TikTok. She's not alone. Okay, this is also what's happening in New York. So a governor of a state in the United States came out and said the following, that we are going to be collecting data. So whether you're verified or not, the government is going to be scouring the interwebs to try to find information about you. This is the governor. She says this is done to ensure safety, and it is going to be a result, I guess, of reaction to their failed policies. They've already wrecked, the city with more crime and bad enforcement, and so now they're going to need more enforcement to, I guess, do a better job. This is what's happening in New York.
Also, we're very focused on the data we're collecting from surveillance efforts, what's being said on social media platforms, and we have launched an effort to be able to counter some of the negativity and reach out to people when we see hate speech being spoken about on online platforms. Our social media analysis unit has ramped up its monitoring of sites to catch incitement to violence, direct threats to others. And all this is in response to our desire, our strong commitment to ensure that not only do New Yorkers be safe, but they also feel safe. Because personal security is about everything for them. As I said, no one walking down the street or in a subway should feel they have to hide any indications of what their religious beliefs are. We expect to see people celebrating their lives, walking about freely. And that is no longer the case because people are living in fear. They have a right to do whatever they want here in the state of New York.
Pretty much, they do have a right to do whatever they want. They can just, basically do anything, apparently. And this is curious. I don't know exactly what she's talking about because she didn't articulate it too clearly. But is she talking about the protests, the recent Middle East unrest, the both sides, out there articulating their viewpoints? That's causing people to feel unsafe. And so if you have a viewpoint that you express on the internet that feels like it makes other people feel unsafe, I guess the government's going to do something about that. In America, this is where free speech is supposed to thrive and stay alive, and it's not. They're killing it everywhere we turn. And guess what? Nikki Haley doesn't sound much different than this woman, right? Nikki Haley wants to know your name, right? She wants to know your name. Name's Robert Gouveia right here. That's pretty easy. And we're going to be here continuing to call these lunatics, and we'll continue to support everybody being able to call them lunatics, whether they like it or not, freely behind a name or not, because that's part of free speech. We don't want the government to be able to identify all its citizens who it detests and do something about it. So we'll continue to cover this. Now, hopefully there's some reaction to this. Hopefully people who might be supporting her wake up on the right, or if they're even concerned about this, maybe they want more of this, because this would make endless war a lot more palpable. If you could just silence everybody who oppose another conflict, well, much easier to have more conflicts without any dissent. So we'll be here continuing to cover this and more, my friends. Thank you for subscribing. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.